Welcome to another review, and this time we will take a look at my Powerbook G4 17-inch, Apple's first 17-inch laptop. Yep, the big boy. Now, if you look at the computer industry today, there isn't really all that much demand anymore for a 17-inch laptop, for such giant laptops. You don't really see them a lot anymore. And Apple has discontinued their 17-inch MacBook Pro in 2011, if I'm not wrong, but quite some time ago. And I can kind of understand why, because the only person I could imagine using such a big ass laptop on a daily basis is really a professional who travels a lot. Not any different person needs such a large display in a laptop, because it really takes away from the portability factor, which a laptop is supposed to be. Now, in fact, I used to own such a big computer back in the days, a Dell Vostro, also 17-inch. It was big. And this Dell Vostro could not fit in any normal bag. It would need its own computer bag. Now back to this Powerbook. This was, as I said, Apple's first 17-inch laptop. It was released in 2003, and it was part of the Powerbook line they had. That was their professional grade laptop at the time. They had the iBooks, which were for, the consumers, and the Powerbooks, which were like the MacBook Pro for the more professional guys. Now, the 17-inch model came later in the aluminum series, and so it came already with a 1 gigahertz processor and 512 megabytes of RAM. It also came with a 60 gigabyte 4200 RPM hard drive and a GeForce 4MX with 64 megs. You want to know how much it cost? It costs a whopping $3,299 without options. Now, when you pay so much for a laptop, you really have to have a use for it. So this was probably one of the first of its kind, a 17-inch laptop, and back then you really had to pay for that premium exclusivity that this laptop gave you. It held up to 2005 when Apple made the transition in 2006 to Intel, but the Powerbook was updated until 2005, and the top of the line model was in 2005 a 1.67 gigahertz processor, 512 megabytes of RAM still, but a 120 gigabyte 5400 RPM or a 100 gigabyte 7200 RPM hard drive, and a way better Mobility Radeon 9700, which had 128 megs of VRAM, and that only cost $2,499. So, even after these 2 years, the price dropped quite a bit. So the ridiculous $3,300 what this cost didn't last so long. This shipped with version 10.2 or 10.3, while the 2005 model shipped with 10.4, and they all can go up to 10.5, which is Leopard. Now, with all of these facts out of the way, let's actually take a look at the machine. Now, when you look at this, it basically looks like any other Powerbook G4, but you can see that it's wider, way wider. And it also shares, like the 15-inch model, the optical drive in the front. They kept that design until the 2008 MacBook Pros. In fact, my 2007 MacBook Pro still has the optical drive in the front, which is kind of cool. Now, here's the latch, and when you flip it to this side, you can see the ports. Now, port-wise, we got the same as the 15-inch regular Powerbook. You have a USB 2.0, a FireWire 400 and 800, a Ethernet port, a S-video port, a DVI port, and when you flip it on the back, there's nothing but the cooling, just the vent. And here, the remaining ports, the power input, a modem, a USB 2.0 again, an expansion card slot, and audio in and out. Now, this big form factor didn't give you any more ports. It just gave you, basically all it did, it really gave you a larger screen the rest, like under the hood, all the processors and everything, you could get them also in a 15-inch model. So you purely only bought this for the screen. Now when you flip it up here, you will find out that it does not have a number pad like no Apple laptop ever did. A lot of PC laptops do that, but Apple never bothered with that. Now it has a backlight keyboard, I think. We'll turn it on and see if that is the case. Yes, it is. It just needs to boot up. You can see the button light thing symbol. The keyboard is the same as in the other PowerBooks. The trackpad is the same size, and I think that's that kind of sucks about it, because they have all this space. Look at all of this big space. They could have just made this a tiny bit bigger at least to use this giant space somehow, but they didn't. And you know, that's how Apple is. Now, as all PowerBook keyboards, it's pretty nice to type on. And here is finally the screen. Now I have to apologize for this screen a little bit, because this unit here has been used quite a bit, and actually when I got it, it was very dirty. And as you can see, the PowerBook here, the PowerBook title is kind of scuffed up from all the cleaning. I was that, yes, it sucks, but you know, this was like black. It was just disgusting. And because of all of this use, the screen is just worn out, and the backlight isn't as good as it used to be. But nevertheless, for such an old device, I think the screen is pretty darn good. It has a 1440 by 900 display, and for 2003, I think that is not a bad thing. Now the computer now shut down because it's out of battery already, but when you looked previously, it showed 93%. That's because the battery in this is flat dead, and it would need replacing. Now I am not gonna do that. I just don't use the computer for anything, that's why. But I think you can still get batteries for these, like from Amazon New or something. Not the original ones though, but replacement units. Now come on, wake up. Alright, there we go. If you go to About That Mac, you will see it's running Tiger, and it has a gigabyte of RAM, and also this doesn't have the original hard drive, thankfully. The owner replaced it with a 100 and something gigabyte. I think it's 110 or 120 gig. 149 even. Alright, so 150 gig Western Digital drive, which I think is faster than 4200 RPM. It just way snappier and overall better and bigger. So that, and the RAM has been upgraded, but the rest is, well, stock. Of course, it being a laptop, not much can be done about that. So here is the graphics, the original 17-inch model graphics, a 4MX, 64 megs of RAM. I think that was okay in 2003. It also has wireless and Bluetooth. So this also has Bluetooth, and I just, for the fun of it, paired it with a brand new Magic Mouse, and it worked, even on Tiger, and that's just, it just is incredible that it still works. However, you cannot use any, you know, multi-touch gestures. I think Leopard can do that, because at the time they used this Magic Mouse shit, but on Tiger you can just use it as a normal mouse. I think not even the right click works, although I didn't try that. But yes, it does work, and that's kind of cool. Now if you look at the bezels here, you see that they are really thin, in my opinion. They're not thick at all, and this is such an old machine. It just astonished me that they were able to pull that off, and it's looking still pretty darn good. And I can say that like for the whole machine. If you take a look at the Powerbook G3, its predecessor, I think the Powerbook G3 really looks retro. It really does look old. Yes, I think that looks old. But this one, though, with the aluminium and the nice design, I think this still, you know, holds up pretty good. Sure, it's not as slick and stuff as the latest, but of course it isn't, since it's just so old. A little fun fact is that the Powerbook G4 15 inch is actually thicker than the 17 inch. And I will prove you that. I've got here my 17 inch and now I have here the 15 inch. Now let's close them up and see which one is thicker. Or are they the same? No, they're not. You will find that out just now. You will see here it's slightly thinner, and I find that kind of amusing. So they had all this space and I kind of spread it out more, and that got the laptop actually thinner, and that's kind of cool. Now if you stack them on top of each other here, you will find out that the 15 inch is really a lot smaller, even though this is not really a small laptop as is, but compared to the 17 inch model here, there's quite some screen available. Now let's take a look at it from the underside, because the top side looks pretty familiar with the glowing Apple logo, but the underside here is maybe interesting. After all, this is an in-depth video, so I need to show you every single available thing on this computer. Here is the battery, and it is dead, as I said. It can be taken out pretty easy. You just do this, and yes, it was on. I know, just don't bother telling me that. It just comes out like that. And of course, Apple being Apple, they had to have a different battery type for every single PowerBook. So the 12 inch had one that kind of had the square here included, the foot included, because it was so small. It just basically was a corner like the iBook G4s. And the 15 inch had a different model, and this even has a different version. So come on, Apple, can't you just use one single battery? Is it really that hard? But anyway, that's how Apple is, you know. But here, when you flip it over, you can see the original specs: 1 gigahertz, 512 megs, 60 gigs, and Super Drive. That was a big deal back then, yes. Bluetooth, Ethernet, AirPort ID, everything here. The good old days of computing. And that's the underside of the trackpad, by the way. So the rest is the same as on any other PowerBook G4. All the screws holding it down, just 2 more than the 15 inch model because it's so wide. Annoying and shit to disassemble, like any PowerBook G4. Not as bad as iBooks though, but you know, Apple is Apple, and they just always find ways to make your life hard when you try to upgrade your machine. So it just clips in with these 2 latches. You pull them, it's coming up, you push it down, it's back in. That is easy, and that is nice engineering. Where did this go? Man. Now, as I said, this is a heavily used machine, and you can see all the scratches on the back here. Also, all of these rubber feet are missing, all of them, and they would need replacing. Back here, cooling vent. These guys get really hot. It has 2 fans, one here and one here, but it still gets very, very hot. Now, one thing I might do in the future to it is replace the thermal paste. Maybe that helps a bit. I gotta try it first on my MacBook Pro, because that's a computer I actually use. This is just a collector's item of me. So this is it, basically. It just there's not much to show you more, since this is a laptop after all. When you close it, it kind of has this latch which kind of comes up in the last second, and then makes it click. There you go. Quite awesome though that they designed it that reliably, that it still works. It is really insane, after all of these years and abuse that this computer had. The speakers in it don't really sound that great, in my opinion, but that can also be that it just has maybe some crap in it and it needs cleaning, or they're just damaged in any other way, because it sounds kind of weird. And I can confirm that my 15-inch version sounds way better than this, so maybe there's just something wrong with it. So yeah, guys, this is the in-depth look at the PowerBook GeForce 17-inch model. A big ass laptop, and yep, you were quite a guy. You were the guy when you had one of those in 2003 for sure. But I really could not imagine using this on a daily basis. It would just be too big and too bulky, and even though it's not even that heavy, like the form factor alone would kind of make it impossible for me. So what do you guys think? A 17-inch laptop, who can really use that to its all its potential? This is only, like, as I said, for the professional guy who travels a lot, and any other guy should just get a desktop PC at home instead of spending so much money on a big ass laptop. But anyway, that's only my opinion. It's cool to have, nevertheless, Apple's first 17-inch computer. So thank you for watching, and see you later.